almost there. Okay, I'm good.
Everyone ready?
Yep.
Advantage 1. Russia. Russian policies to task NATO resolve Syria, Ukraine, the INF Treaty, election interference, or crisis could spiral into extinction causing nuclear war 2018. The US and Russia could engage in nuclear war. They come close. Russia could match the US bombs from long range of weapons that have the chances to use them. Russia is encroaching on NATO. Putin might authorize an invasion of Baltic countries. The US would be treaty about setting up a shooting war. Russia would use nukes to escalate to de-escalate. Washington would respond with nuclear strikes. They'd be in a full-blown nuclear war. Radiation poisoning is a horrible way to die. The US and Russia would destroy major cities and targets and bring down humanity. 150 million tons of black smoke would plunge surface temperature 20 degrees. Nothing would grow, and those who didn't die in the nuclear firefight would soon starve. The depleted ozone layer would harm nearly every ecosystem and make it harder to go outside. Next, unlike other nukes, ICBMs increase the chance of miscalculation because they have to be launched quickly before the first strike can take them out and can't be called back. Maintaining them triggers a new and destabilizing US-Russian arms race means that they undercut deterrence and increase the chance of nuclear war. Start 2017. Building new minimum threes may trigger a new arms race or a miscalc could trigger a nuclear war if sensors indicate that enemy missiles are armed around the president would launch ICBMs before the enemy missiles could destroy them. Once they launch, they cannot be recalled. The president would have less than 30 minutes. Human machine errors occur. Next, cybersets ICBMs amplify the likelihood of accidental launch and undermine deterrence in the nuclear umbrella. UNLV Lewis 2018. The likelihood of attempted cyber attacks on the nuclear system is high from non-state and non-state groups. Many silos are particularly vulnerable. Spoofing and hijack decision-making with devastating consequences. Hackers and actors in terrorist organizations possess the capabilities and for the launch and detonation of war, winning the likelihood of conflict and intervention assurance, the assurances allies lose their reliability. Next, Russia's hypersonic weapons are initiating new arms race elsewhere until 27. Russia's hypersonic weapons are making intercontinental range of trouble. The U.S. defense strategy. Russia has developed weapons because of the U.S. missile defense that could erode Russian nuclear deterrent. Russia is now leading the world. The Pentagon has been working on hypersonic weapons. Next, hypersonic arms race causes nuclear escalation. They can be mistaken for nuclear weapons and increase first strike danger by threatening command and control facilities. Clear 2019. Preventing accidental nuclear war requires time speed will alter the calculus that deterrens hypersonic vehicles are making interception impossible. Vehicles carrying capable of carrying nuclear warheads are threats to global nuclear stability. They can attack command and control facilities. The incapacitation is soon the way for disarming first strike of nuclear weapons. The Russian developed hypersonic weapons is another escalatory danger. Next, the plan results in destabilizing effects. Schultz 2005. Invest from ICBMs, nuclear deterrence is best performed by virtually invulnerable ballistic missile submarine and survivability and accuracy to strike any desired target. Force postures of the U.S. and Russia must be altered. Conventional PGS are not destabilizing, but combined with global monsters will become a cause for concern. Next, ICBMs are vulnerable to a first strike, which puts them on a hair trigger. Even if the plan doesn't stop war, it prevents the U.S. from becoming a nuclear sponge, which minimizes the risk of nuclear winter and millions of deaths. Standard 2018. ICBMs must be launched in a warning to prevent the destruction. A decision would need to be made in only a few minutes before knowing whether the attack is false alarm. The probability of destroying a missile silo with a single warning could exceed 98%. Russia would not threaten millions of American lives. If the ICBMs do not exist, online targets for launching should be kept small to limit the number of warheads an adversary would be required to detonate within the U.S. We would deprive a large part of the Soviet land-based missile force with reason to etc. Next, a strike against U.S. ICBMs would kill millions, devastate the environment, and risk extinction. Goal 13. ICBMs would spend Russian warheads beyond immediate local death and devastation. The fallout would be intense, spreading and killing millions of civilians. Long-term contamination would be 10 times greater than Chernobyl, rendering a large swath uninhabitable for generations. Russians would develop 750 warheads enough to murder tens of millions and render U.S. society inviolable, resulting in nuclear winter that could kill a billion people by disrupting agricultural plan. Thus, the plan of the United States federal government and Russian Federation also to eliminate their nuclear arsenals and nuclear arms intercontinental ballistic missiles. The plan improves strategic stability by eliminating use or losing weapons. Goal 13. When neither the U.S. nor Russia has ICBMs, neither side has used them or lose them forces. There is no motivation to start nuclear war. As far as they will be each side's warheads are impossible for the other side to destroy in a first strike. Advantage 2. Deterrence. The plan frees up resources to be put into nuclear submarines, which offers a more secure deterrence and bolsters non-proliferation. Start 2017. Sharpened Amendment 3 will show emerging nuclear powers like India, Pakistan, and America series, but non-proliferation hypothetical aggressor may take out a nation's gun nuclear forces with preemptive strike steps would be impossible to reliably track down and destroy. Other nations don't know where they are. They can launch their missiles from anywhere in the ocean, whereas the ICBMs are fixed well known sites. The ICBMs cost $100 billion. Amendment 3 parts can be used for satellites. Washington demonstrated that it is equally committed to creating a world without nukes and starts with scraping the Amendment 3. Specifically revitalizing the NPT. Ellsberg 2017. U.S. doctrine isolated the U.S. and allies effective non-proliferation and inescapably linked to disarmament, abolition of nuclear weapons was common stage of proliferation in the near future to be averted. Commitment is no longer to be delayed or equivocated. Next, that solves halts by escalation and nuclear war. October 2015. The NPT reaffirms the strength of international norms against proliferation. 90 countries increased global line. The NPT on proliferation during Jewish tech avoided open war with Iran over its nuclear program, stopping Middle East nuclear arms race. The NPT is a shift of minds and nations to mutually reinforcing behavior, make strategic choices, identify the self-serving nature of states and an anarchist system to protect the world against nuclear conflict. Next, ICBMs are extensive and can only deter Russia because even if we shoot them in another country, country original thing, we were attacking them, eliminating ICBMs, less investment in nuclear conventional forces that effectively deter modern nuclear threats like North Korea and give us a non-nuclear response option until 2018. Deter nuclear wars, both conventional aggression concerns over Iran and North Korea, along with China, and suggest the need for absolute specific deterrence can continue reckless behavior in spite of Washington's nuclear tries. The U.S. defense budget needs to focus on conventional deterrence, cancellation of ICBMs will save $100 billion and eliminate the annual operating cost. Elimination would allow the subs to carry more warheads or a larger force of bombers. The minimum force can only be feasibly aimed at Russian ICBM. Prediction require overflow of Russian airspace, causing the Russians to think that the U.S. initiated an attack. Bombers and submarines can carry out conventional as well as nuclear roles, launch cruise missiles, signal attack with forward deployment to an overseas base in time of crisis. Conventional capability responding to limited nuclear exchange increases the complexity of enemy decision-making equation. Nuclear North Korea must be made to doubt that conceding and engaging in nuclear coercion. Specifically, they'll use CBWs around 2019. Nuclear bioweapons pose a more serious military threat than the nuclear program. North Korea is far more likely to use bioweapons than nuclear ones. The program is advanced, underestimated, and highly lethal. Offensive weapons in the North Armory include smallpox, anthrax, hydrogen cyanide, employing the deep web identified interest in antibiotic resistance. Next, that causes extinction. Miller 2017. Bioweapons could threaten all future generations. Species go extinct due to these advances in biotech, allowing enhanced threats and visibility, lethality, and the ability to overcome therapeutics. Mass specs can be modified to have 100% case fatality rates, delivery capabilities up and subject to the cutting edge of development. I now start open for cross-acts.
Okay.
What's the framework?
We don't provide a specific framework, but basically util.
Okay, so wait, so you're just assuming util?
Yeah, consequentialism and stuff.
Okay, interesting. Let's look at why would revitalize the MPT. Could you cite me a line from the Iceberg 17 card which supports the idea that the MPT would be revitalized?
Well, actually, if you look at the card right above that, Star 2017, it talks about how that scraping the minimum threes, which are the ICBMs, would demonstrate that Washington is equally, and I quote, is equally committed to creating a world without nukes. That shows that, like, it shows that we are in agreement with the NPT.
Sure. Where do you cite anything about the MPT other than your taglines?
What do you mean?
You talk about the MPT a bunch. Which ones of your evidence actually talks about the MPT?
Cooper 2015. The MPT reaffirms and strengthens international norms against pro-life 190 countries, increase global buy-in, etc.
Okay. Why wouldn't subs violate the MPT? You say the U.S. would just increase like the amount of subs we have.
ICBMs are uniquely destabilizing. That's STAR 2017. It talks about how ICBMs increase the chance of miscalculation since you only have about like 30 minutes to make a decision. Plus, ICBMs are they're likely to suffer.
So why don't submarines face these same threats?
Because nuclear submarines, our enemies don't know exactly where they are, so in a first strike, they can't be sure that they're going to take all of them out, which increases the chance of a second strike and deters a first strike.
And this is according to your Shell 5 evidence?
Let me double check. I think it's in the second contentions. Maybe. No, sorry, yeah. It should be Shoal 2005, but we also have other cards on nuclear submarines.
Sure. So let's talk about hypersonics. Is Russia your card seems to indicate that hypersonics are being developed absent the status quo. So does the plan change the US's development of hypersonics?
No, it makes sure, we're saying that the arms race is inevitable, we want to limit the effects of the arms race. So for example, because hypersonic weapons are basically conventional weapons that move faster than the speed of sound. And so so if you launch a hypersonic weapon at the U.S., then the U.S. without only the 30 minutes, the ICBMs would be the only that would be the main option in order to respond. And so the ICBMs cause miscalculation.
Wait, but you say that subs exist regardless of the plan. So why couldn't decision makers wait to use subs?
They can wait to use submarines, which is the entire point.
But then why does that mean they use ICBMs?
Well, because the whole point of the nuclear sponge is that there are so many ICBMs that you can't take them out. They have use them or lose their pressures. Because if the hypersonic weapons take out a command and control facility, as they're likely to do, then the ICBMs are now useless. They're going to want to use them.
I'll take a breath. 2 used. Sending them down. Done sent. Order is 2 off case.
I'm ready.
Sure. Awesome. Counterplan, the United States re-engage with path and comply with the New START Treaty, ACA 10. The New START continues the bipartisan policy of reducing U.S. and Russian strategic nuclear arsenals, missile launch limits up to 700 next. That turns the arms race, Senate Press Release 18. The Senate floor calls to avert potential arms race with Russia by working to extend the New START reduction treaty, New START. Next, Russia signs on Rusky 19. Russia is ready to extend the New START nuclear arms treaty by the end of this year without any modification or discussion. Next, New START is key to preventing an arms race, country 19. A key to arms control is set to expire in February 2021. Without it, 2 countries could be locked into nuclear arms not seen since the height of the Cold War. Trump is holding on hopes of getting a bigger deal. The treaty is working military intelligence visuals, great value in the New START's monitoring verification provisions, which provide predictable and transparency for Alabama stable nuclear deterrence position by Russia. Trust believe that China is currently interested in expanding the base in the inventory just 5% has no logical incentive to join negotiations. Next off. Word ambiguity means no hypersonics now, but disarm these development. Only 17. There is no consensus in Congress as to whether the U.S. should develop CPGS, deploy CPGS. The project may result in nuclear conversation run by the stake launch potential or resistance for nukes. CPGS would be detected by states could not be certain within a missile nuclear war. CPGS ambiguity was central to controversial opposition. Russia's official war CPGS may trigger nuclear retaliation. Next, PGS shift causes space weaponization, undermines stability, and renders PGS ineffective. Albert 18. Dress accelerating destructive potential space warfare concerns follow the investment in the PGSN within the U.S. Does companies started considering the U.S. products threatened they are taking steps to defend themselves hypersonics rely on the stats for this reason. Russia and China developing capacity to U.S. allies of security targeting capabilities. Next, Pentagon is pushing for planning for space weaponization of status quo. Chapter 19. Defense official wants to test a neutral particle beam in the orbit in fiscal 2023 to explore space weapon. The vax for $304 million in the 2020 budget. Defense officials advancements technologies brought down potential size and cost of space-based particle beams pushed to develop space-based weapons. Also price going that advances in tech from Iran and North Korea. Defense officials make clear the treaty does not provide an obstacle to deployment of either laser or true particle beams in orbit. China and Russia are developing space-based weapons that could be in orbit next year. Next, space weaponization makes bio and chemical war inevitable. Mitchell 1. Building space weapons will result in U.S. interceptors can't send munitions hurtling through the atmosphere. Thus, speed of space warfare could be intense. Use of pressure to the space weapons could make war now against susceptibility to accidents. Good to do enormous damage more with a nuclear weapon. Any nation of space from attack retaliate with maximum force, including biological and chemical weapons. The most destructive military conflict I've ever seen. That turns case because you're impacted by war. But if we already have the capacity to status quo, we're only increasing the chance it's going to happen because of there's 2 PGS. Now, case. First, on the ICBM's bad arguments, there's first, no accident checks are built into this in Credit 17. NCC's features enhance deterrence and contribute to stability, procedures to prevent unauthorized external inadvertent use. New bombs are run by safeguards, ballistic missiles are aimed at the ocean. Decision time is longer in many scenarios. Assessment, naval presence with advisors, military members are bound to Washington wars to those not confirmed by the authority. And quote, importantly, because the point of the ocean, if there's miscalculation, it only goes to the ocean, doesn't start a conflict. Next, eliminating ICBMs does not solve warhead ambiguity. CBS is mistaken for SLMBs, SLMBs, and SSBNs. Acting PhD 13. The planning conventional trying to modification will have to save conventional warheads based on delivery systems exclusively associated with nuclear weapons. There's concern about the use of SSGNs for CPS because companies use to carry nuclear missiles. Argument ignores the nuclear ancestry of the other potential big models. Land-based concepts may use states, SLMBs, some sea-based concepts could be entirely free about nuclear CPS weapons would be sea-based, could be launched from areas where nuclear weapons are deployed. Next, ICBMs are key to deterrence when the plane causes tech build target submarine which collapses try internally and incentivizes worse tactics because fewer targets and kept out of scouts. That turns case on the risk of miscalculation on being able to target nuclear submarines. So their entire case is based on the idea that that the other countries are going to target silos and get rid of our entire arsenal. We say that is easier with submarines and just bombers. Paragraph 16. fully defends the U.S. against Russian attacks, direct retaliation, military means to try the ICBMs that make the American turn and critical security, limiting ICBMs going the American turn as a nuclear strike. ICBMs deploying all three US-based ICBMs are the least expensive, probably better than others do not. ICBMs are constantly alert, eliminating only to strike and smaller of targets. Each side would have to target separate are unattackable, breaking together, make oceans so big, and land increases as limiting ICBMs motivate adversaries to develop capacity, locate submarines, ICBMs in particular, and ensure adversaries' objectives are beyond reach because they cannot be destroyed by conventional forces. Next, no ICBMs bad impacts, instant logic, and pierce improvement, accidental launch risk, according to Trying T. ICBMs drawn on mines to treat nuclear stability. ICBMs contribute to deterrence the U.S. practice number of safeguards reduce the risk of accidental nuclear arms. This with jackets and material evidence launching ICBMs close to go to the U.S. Saturday and make the sense of the U.S. eliminate if the U.S. can safely in the ICBMs. There's no reason why the president should be so eager to use ICBMs so early in a crisis. U.S. the Russian China involved with the silo-based ICBMs objectives are accidental nuclear arms. That means that there is no risk of use or losing parts because the U.S. decision makers know that there is enough that there's a chance that Russia will miss. Next subs. Their sub arguments are bad because they can be tracked. 16 SSBM certification problems, rapid deployments, advanced intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance tech. Track submarines by trying to provide news being tracked. Submarines anywhere. Next on the note. No stuff, there's no chance of bioweapons. Boy 18. Having capabilities, have the battle is being stabilized. These are living organisms subject to temperature, pressure, and variety of other factors. The bioweapons have not received challenges. Nuclear arms because no Korea lacks technology because difficulty in controlling bioweapons make less trial. South Korea has advanced medical systems in North Korea, which means bullet activity numbers and more devastating on the road try use the intelligence road for military bioweapons. Next on their Russia arguments, Russia's nuclear weapons to effectively deter war and Western intervention is Shoal 18. Russian military to try any international war, nuclear strike to de-escalation revises the scale of nuclear strike de-escalation rests on Taylor damage threat of limit attack nuclear strike. It would be effective deterrent nuclear de-escalation treaties to be presenting significant challenge wasn't the military strategists. Next, that being said, we are morally needed international conflict that's going to kill millions of people over the long term. For example, World War. People are made arguments why some bombers are not don't have the same deterrent capability. On what at the bottom. Not even all a nuclear war causes nuclear tropic survival. 16 even all a nuclear war released nuclear would not be the tropics hardly as the Arctic. So it's, some humans would surely survive. Reactivity you also dealt with. So you humans would survive, not make a mistake. Next, on the line by line. Starting at this topic of Star Card, it's literally some person from a website called Foxtrot. The counterplan will solve all their arms race their ICMs, increasing the chance of miscount argument. It's just wrong, and our chronic evidence is much better on this question. They say Russian hypersonics is unique from the Al Jazeera, but this card has no arms race one. They just have cool weapons. That's all the card says. Next, on a warhead ambiguity and hypersonics arms race, the submarines fail on this question, so we've turned the case in that sense. They say plans resolved because of subs, but their Shell 5 card is super old. Prefer our evidence on submarines. They say ICBMs vulnerable first strike, but again, Chronic is much better. They're not. They say use it or lose it, but same exists for subs and bombers, especially if commanders feel like they're going to lose their weapons. They say CPW used by North Korea. The card says threats of North Korea are being answered by the U.S., which means our counterplank off card is going to turn this. They say revise MPT, but the link card doesn't even mention the MPT. Don't have buy this argument. Cross.
Oh, right, sorry. Never mind. Cross first.
I was like, wait, am I the winner? What's happening?
Well, is everyone ready?
Yep.
Okay, let's start on your second off case position.
Sure.
Your link card, August 2017. Where does it talk about ICBM specifically?
Sure. We're saying that disarmament is what's leading to development, insofar as that U.S. decision makers want additional
Disarmament of all nuclear weapons, or just ICBM?
No, just disarmament.
Disarmament in general, so all nuclear weapons.
No, not in general, like a reduction in nuclear weapons.
Can you point to a line in the card that in August 2017 where it says just a reduction?
States would not be surrounded with missile and nuclear warheads. CPGS ambiguity was centered to congressional opposition. Russian officials meanwhile argue that CPGS may trigger nuclear retaliation.
Where does that say that disarmament would lead to CPGS shift?
The idea of nuclear warhead ambiguity is literally just restricted to ICBMs.
You're saying so the warhead ambiguity only applies to ICBMs?
Yeah, we're saying in this card is specifically arguing that ambiguity is being caused by ICBMs.
Okay, so only ICBMs cause warhead ambiguity?
That's what this card said, but we've also made arguments that submarines would also cause warhead
So
ambiguity.
what is it? Is it only ICBMs or does subs also cause?
Decision makers think it is limited to ICBMs. That is why the DISAD happens. But in the chance of a war happening,
Where does this card say?
SSBMs
Where does
would
this
also
card
cause
specify
this.
that where warhead ambiguity is only limited to ICBMs?
That's what they are talking about when they're saying that Congress is unsure whether to develop CBGS because it might result in nuclear
But is
confrontation.
there any line that actually says that ICBMs are the only thing that cause warhead ambiguity, or that's what
No, that
decision
card
makers
is
think?
talking about warhead ambiguity.
Okay, so nothing specific to ICBMs.
Sure.
Cool. So what does the New Start what does the New Start agreement actually do?
So New START is a verifiable and actionable reduction mechanism of nuclear arms.
Awesome. Why is it mutually exclusive with the AF?
Because under New START, ICBMs still exist. Like the counterplan doesn't mandate that the U.S. would get rid of its ICBMs.
Okay, cool. Then let's move on to the on case. Do you make any arguments about why miscalculation is incorrect?
Yes, I do. That's on the ICBMs part of it. So a couple of arguments. First is that ICBMs are key to deterrence, and because of this, U.S. decision makers know not to just use them immediately, so miscalcs is not going to happen. The card after that, Kronig, he does an analysis of the chance of these things being used in a miscalculation scenario, but
Cool.
he says that there's no reason to be used.
Thank you. And just to confirm, you read all of the off-case cards?
Yes, except for the last one under the first off.
Awesome. Now the starts. And prep time there. I should have around 2 minutes left.
You have 1:47 left.
Thank you. Okay. Sending out the document right now. So I kind of just made my speech at the top of your NC document, so that's why I just titled NC. go deterrence, then Russia, deterrence, then Russia, then start, then the DA.
Okay.
And you can just put, my answers to the all the stuff under the ICBMs is just gonna be under the deterrence.
Oh yeah.
Everybody ready?
Yeah.
The plan strengthens the U.S. deterrent credibility, one perception, and signals commitment to abide by the NPT's commitment to disarm, which dissuades potential proliferance that prevents destabilizing caused by escalation, use and pressures that go nuclear. 2. Structure the plan results in enhanced focus on substance enhances individually tailored deterrent strategies. The key to deter North Korea, since the regime is more fearful of U.S. basing. The weapon program is highly advanced and causes potential for extinction via weaponization of smallpox. 2. This plan said that there's no accidents. However, we have to take even the risk of an accident. Then he said it. Then the next two cards, actually 2013 and Baroda's 2016, are basically saying that the idea of a nuclear sponge is good, basically where you have so many ICBMs that the first strike can't take them out. However, sponging fails. The likelihood of a single Russian missile destroying an ICBM is 98%. Their evidence doesn't assume that Russia advances in Russian GPS and MARV tech. That's Snyder. 2. Attacking C3 means it only takes 45 nukes. Blair 2018. Russian targeting strategy destroying 45 launch centers to disable backup airborne centers and server UHF radio links. Russia may be started to targeteers than the sponge theorists imagine. Then they said that then they cited this the Kronig evidence. However, 1. The AC decisively proves that ICBMs undermine deterrence because they're maximally vulnerable to escalation, crisis, time pressure, miscalculation, vulnerability to hacking, warhead ambiguity with hypersonic weapons, and first strike vulnerability, creating a user-loser mindset. This outweighs the deterrent value of having a second backup for nuclear subs. 2. ICBMs don't hedge against anti-submarine tech breakthroughs. Russia already knows how to defeat our ICBMs with an arsenal with the first strike. Their location is new and can be easily targeted at the side. 3. Prefer star specificity. Kronig calls it an unspecified hypothetical tech breakthrough that makes us vulnerable to start. Card says that we have advanced deep water submarine cell technology, teardrops, holes, superior propellers, and the sound of absorbing anechoic tiles among other technologies. Stop the analytics there. Then they said that subs are tracked. However, their code only says that it makes it easier to track, not that they actually are tracked. Plus, tech breakthroughs ensures that continue focus on subs. We can make sure that they aren't tracked since they're already so difficult to track. Now moving on to the Russia advantage. The plan solves 3 nuclear scenarios for nuclear war. 1. Accidents are likely because of hacking and causes full retaliation against escalatory pressures. 2. Russian tensions are increasing against ICBM modernization, creates pressures for an arms race. This causes nationalism and emboldens aggressive and Russian actions, including invasion of the Baltics, results in U.S. intervention in nuclear use to de-escalate through escalation. 3. War and ambiguity. It's likely because hypersonic weapons are under-theorized and nations are seeking military advantages. This speed ensures that these conflicts will go nuclear. 2. This my opponent said that Russian nuclear weapons effectively deters wars and Western intervention. However, we're talking about miscalculation. Even if they launch a conventional warhead, it can still lead a nuclear war. Then they said Russia and NATO are bound and disabled nuclear deterrence networks. However, what they don't understand is that deterrence is not a brink impact. It's we're trying to increase it as much as possible. Then they say that a robust U.S. nuclear weapons is crucial to the U.S. Affecting deterrence. However, we're not getting rid of all nuclear arsenals, just ICBMs, and ICBMs aren't critical to nuclear deterrence. And then they say that no historical empirics, because of historical empirics. However, we can't just always be focused on the past. We don't know what would happen in the future, especially with now with tensions so high. Moving on to the START counter plan. PERM, do both eliminating the ICBMs complies with the strategic arms reduction of the new START. New START alone cancel the internal links. 1. The Russian advantage counter plan remains about 700 ICBMs with 1,550 warheads, and in the last hypersonic development that goes extremely the cyber threat territory with the miscalculation. Only complete elimination can solve. 2. Deterrence advantage. The new START puts numerical limits on conventional war. 2, which is bad. We need non-nuclear option. New START creates exceptions for the U.S. and Russia to maintain their arsenals, which ducks non-proliferate. 3. Russia says no, the counter plan can't field them. U.S. pulled out of INF, so they have no reason to distrust our commitment to New START. They won't reciprocate the CP. Moving on to the DEA. 1. No link. We don't get rid of all nukes, and they don't have an actual link card that talks about ICBMs specifically. 2. Link term enhanced nuclear deterrence by shifting from ICBMs to subs at 12. 3. Turn the app enhanced nuclear deterrence means that there is less than 7 for conventional threat. There's a whole AC. 4. Non-needy. Russia and U.S. are already engaging in conventional offensive or hypersonic weapons. And I'm going to skip the 5th Atlantic.
Okay, 2. Starting math. one new piece of evidence. It's going to be counterplan disad case. Duck set. Just to clarify, the new card is going to be read on the disad.
On the disad?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, we're okay.
Hold on a quick second.
There's like a silly amount of text before the part like I actually read.
Oh. So that's fine. You good?
The new card is a 12 by 18 card.
Yes. Oh, and I'm not going to read that tagline. Anyways, you're good. You're good. Awesome. I'm gonna flow up. Okay. Time starting now. The New START treaty counterplan make sure that the New START counterplan goes into place and make sure that the U.S. and Russia maintain a no non-confrontational and no arms race situation in which countries are not going to be creating nuclear weapons to fight against each other. Their arguments are firm to both, but the net benefit to the counterplan is that we're not going to get rid of our ICBMs. That work will be on case. They say that it still allows hypersonic development, but no, we say that hypersonic development uniquely comes from ICBMs. But that'll be on the disad. They say deterrence advantage because conventional limits are bad, but there's no reason we need more conventional weapons. They have not read specific evidence on those. They just said we just need more conventional weapons. That is not a real argument. We have plenty of conventional weapons in the status quo, and we said that the military is going to be investing in space-based weapons anyway, so that's where new conventional weapons are being developed anyways. They say Russia says no, but we read evidence that Russia will say yes. It's a silly argument. Next, fine. Next on the disad, their arguments against the disad are essentially like, what's coming from cross-examination? I said the war ambiguity is going to solve, but Talbot 16 card specifically decides that ICBMs are also CPGS. I'll read the card if my computer starts restarting in the middle of my speeches, but you can read the first part, like the little yellow highlighted text is what specifically says that. Beyond that, the first card specifically refers to CPGS being what's going to be developed if we get rid of ICBMs. The status quo confusion over the CPGS is because the CPGS, one, they are launched look exactly like ICBMs when they're launched. So Congress doesn't want to authorize CPGS because they're afraid that other countries will think they're ICBMs. But if we get rid of our ICBMs, they will go forward with CPGS funding. But that is really bad because CPGS heavily relies on satellite targeting. Other countries would be incentivized to target U.S. satellites in order to prevent a U.S. first strike on their own nuclear weapons. And we've read evidence that Russia and China are currently considering development of these weapons. But beyond that, this makes space weaponization a reality. We've read evidence that the Pentagon, instead of funding new submarines as the outset, is going to fund space-based weaponry, especially neuroparticle beacons to stop other countries launching nuclear weapons against us, especially like China, for example, which means that we have space-based weaponization. But we say that space-based weaponization could easily go wrong and lead to a conventional conflict on Earth, and that conventional conflict would involve biological and chemical weapons. They've already impacted out bioweapons for us that cause extinction, but their arguments specifically from North Korea, and we'll tell you about that's wrong anyways, but this means that because they have not responded to that, they have conceded that we're going to have space weaponization, and that is going to lead to a biological war at home. This means that impact coming out is their extinction impact from diseases, just as a disad argument. Now, we're going to go on case. First, let's deal with the no-code stuff. They do not have bioweapons capability. The one in our overview just told you that they do. They have the capacity to build smallpox, but we've read evidence that's very specific to North Korea's capabilities, and that North Korea is unable to, does not have the medical facilities necessary to contain this outbreak, and they don't have the medical facilities to stop the blowback from the disease infecting North Koreans, and South Korea has plenty of medical facilities that would stop this, so biological weapons are not a legitimate target for North Korea. However, we've made arguments analytically that the U.S. and Russia would go towards biological and chemical weapons weapons because we already have the capacities and like latent development capabilities, but we are not in the status quo because we have nuclear weapons. Again, that was all in analytics, but this means that only the US and Russia have a scenario in which biological weapons are being used, and they could potentially cause extinction, whereas the North Korea stuff has conceded evidence that that is 100% wrong. You should not have a risk of offense on this scenario because they don't have any evidence supporting this. Now, the last question for you is between ICBMs and the submarines of the AFRL. We say that ICBMs are better because there's a ton of them, like 700 of them. That means that there's no risk of miscalculation. They say there's a 98% chance of Russia destroying one of them, but that assumes that Russia can target all of them in the first place. They say it's a chance of destruction, not a chance of targeting them, so you shouldn't let them crossfire this argument and misinterpret their own evidence, which means that even if Russia can destroy a lot of our arsenals, they can't destroy the entirety of our arsenals. Additionally, we've read 2 pieces of evidence which say that submarines are easily targetable. They respond to the first Kronig evidence by saying it's unspecified, and then cite parts of their evidence they did not read. Do not allow them to do this. They never read the part of their evidence where it says teardrop hull, which means that it would be a new argument going to the 2AR, and it means that there's evidence they literally did not read. This is distinct from what I did in the start of my speech because my computer literally crashed, and I told you exactly where the evidence was next. On the last part I read, they also classified their same arguments, but we specifically said that the militaries are investing in technologies that will make submarines detectable anywhere in the ocean by 2025. So their entire case is based on the idea that Russia wants to target all of our nukes and get rid of them. In a post-AF world, Russia would just target all of our submarines and get rid of them. All of our evidence, especially Kronig evidence, says that the submarines are much easier to target than all 700 nuclear silo-based arsenals, which means it's much easier for Russia to take them all out. Additionally, we have conceded arguments that bombers are also easily targetable, and they will also be counted for strike. Additionally, commanders on those bases have used their elusive pressures of their own, and that argument has gone conceded. If they feel like an attack is coming for them, I argue that they would launch their nuclear weapons because they are afraid of it falling to enemy hands or getting destroyed by enemy hands. So it's the third scenario for going into a nuclear conflict. Next, they extend this accidents idea against me, but the first argument I'm going to extend against this is that nuclear, the ICBMs are targeted against the ocean, so it does not matter anyways. If ICBMs are launched accidentally, if they go for their cyber stuff, for example, it just goes into the ocean, not towards Russia, which means there's no chance of accidents there. Here's how the debate breaks down. We keep ICBMs through the New Start counterplan. That's why the perm doesn't make sense, because we want to keep ICBMs. The dissat means that there's a huge increased chance of space weaponization and space war, because there's a lower threshold for attacking our space-based weaponry, because they're not afraid of deterrence from our ICBMs. But if all their arguments about other countries first striking our nuclear weapons is true, it just means that the chance of them first striking and successfully first striking our submarines goes way up, which means that all of their scenarios become even more true in a post-AF world, which means to reduce the risk of a nuclear war happening and a first strike happening, have the triad, have all the nuclear weapons, and vote now.
1 minute, 47 seconds left. Going to go Russia deterrence, hypersonics, then start.
When you say hypersonics in that order, you're referring to
The DA.
The dishead,
Yeah.
okay, alright.
Ready?
So wait, AF counterplane dishead, yeah?
Yes.
Alright, cool.
Extend their defense on the Russian advantage. They have no offense on this. We'll concede it has a link. Now moving on to the deterrence advantage. The plan strengthens U.S. deterrent credibility. One perception is signals commitment to abide by the NPT's commitment to disarm, which dissuades potential proliferance. That prevents destabilizing off the escalation used to lose pressure through nuclear. My opponent completely conceded. He didn't extend any of his refutations on this argument. So we have access to all of our NPT arguments. This is especially important. Since this argument is so good, it talks about how only by eliminating ICBMs can we strengthen the NPT, strengthen our commitment to the NPT, because it shows that we are willing to decrease proliferation, and by decreasing proliferation we decrease hostile escalation and nuclear war, which actually solves for their dishead by decreasing the chance that people will need to by increasing deterrence we decrease the chance that people will need to shift to conventional weapons. Moving on to this and then 2, structure. The plan results in enhanced focus on subs and enhances individually tailored deterrent strategy. That's key to deter North Korea, since the regime is more fearful of U.S. basing their bioweapon program is highly advanced and causing the potential for extinction via weaponization of smallpox. To this, my opponent has this Boodle 2018 card. However, prefer my Ryle 2019 card, which talks about how North Korea does have a bioweapon program because it is more recent, so it takes into account newest developments to the system. So. Also, extend their Talbot 2018 card that they read on the DA. This basically guarantees that we have solvency. It talks about how eliminating the tagline that they gave was literally eliminating nuclear ICBMs is the only way to enhance to make a 20th century deterrence. This card is saying that eliminating ICBMs is good. And so that gives solvency for my entire deterrence advantage, which means I have access to all of those impacts. And so let's move on to the counter plan now. All right. So to the DA now. All right. So to my opponent said. My opponent completely conceded 2 turns on this. My first link turn was talking about how subs are really good, and they actually enhance the turns, which decreases the need. So by not having subs, we have to actually increase our conventional warfare. And then my third turn was talking about how their Talbot 2018 card actually gives us deterrence, gives us better deterrence, which decreases the chance for decreases the chance for conventional weaponry. So I have offense even on the hypersonic DA. So that's a place to vote at. Then moving on to the start counter plan. In answer to my two subjects about how he doesn't solve, he said that we already have plenty of conventional weapons. So one, that at least makes the DA unique, DA non-unique. 2, it thumps the link that it should have triggered this space weaponization already. And if it didn't, that means that it's just that the space weaponization is a long way off, and you should vote out on time frame since it's a more immediate threat. And 3, turn, because we increase deterrence, we decrease deterrence, we solve for this. Debate.
Good opinion.